When we were setting this up, you mentioned having to wait a bit because you were running the Arizona Trail, which I understand goes across the entire state. How long is this upcoming trail run of yours?
Well, the whole trail is 800 miles, and this is my third attempt at it. So last year I kind of got caught in the COVID bubble, and um, I started on March 15th, and it just everything kind of went downhill from there in terms of the state of the world. So I had to stop halfway through, and yeah, so it's a pretty long trail. It'll be more like a through hiker style than an well, it'll be an ultra through hiker.
Certainly a hybrid event, right?
Yeah,
Now,
yeah,
when are you going to start this 800? And you are doing the full 800 miles, right?
yes.
Okay. When are you starting? This is just such a big, crazy adventure for me.
Yeah, I start. I'm set to start April 2nd, but I have a little bit of flexibility if I need an extra day or something like that. But it'll be right around that date.
Now, you mentioned doing this, you've done this a couple times, or at least you've attempted it a couple times. Is there a particular meaning to this type of trail run or the Arizona Trail specifically? Are you doing it for a formal reason or just because it'll be a lot of fun?
Well, I think I always start out with the idea that something inspires me, and there's an element of fun. I think my idea of fun is a little different than most people, and it includes a certain amount of pushing and challenging myself. So, fun is kind of a, an interesting concept. But for me, the Arizona Trail has just been a goal to complete because it is something that's out of my wheelhouse and kind of what I'd normally do. It's a little bit longer, but it's still short enough that I could hopefully do it in a couple of weeks, 14, 16 days ideally. So the reason that I've come back to it now several times is it's just kind of taken more preparation than I expected. And I think too, like last year, perhaps I would have had a finish, but COVID happened. And the year before, I didn't get to start out on the trail because I got injured after doing Delirious W.E.S.T 200 miler in Australia. And so I had like a month or two before, after I finished Delirious W.E.S.T, but before I started the Arizona Trail. And it was just like a tear in the muscle that just didn't heal in time. So I had to cancel it before I got out here.
That's awesome. Is there like an FKT that you might be going for in the Arizona Trail, or are you just doing it because you said 14 to 16 days. If you do 800 miles in 2 weeks, you're averaging like 57 miles a day. That seems to me like a tough kind of a thing to do. Is it challenging, or is that something that you feel is very manageable for you?
Well, I would love to get the overall FKT on the trail, which is 14 and a half days. And then the women's supported record is 17 and some change. And then the women's self-supported, excuse me, is 19 and change days. So there's kind of a range in there that I'm going to play around with depending on how the trail goes. But one thing I learned last year was that it's really important to do the amount of miles per day that works with the terrain, that works with my body, and sleep, getting enough sleep, especially in that first week. Because, and so I'm doing it self-supported. So I'm doing it the least amount of support possible this year. Whereas last year I had a crew. And one thing I noticed with a crew, there are so many benefits of a crew, but we had situations like many days where, my crew would be like, hey, we'll see you in 40 miles, and it's like 5 p.m. at night. And so I have to run through the night. And so I wasn't getting like the kind of sleep that I wanted because it was kind of dependent on when the crew could meet and then when I could stop, and I was carrying a lot less. So I think that I'm just kind of curious to see how it'll go when everything rests on my shoulders. Those tend to be the routes or the adventures that I like the most and that I do the best at. So it could take 19 days. I mean, it could take 20. So if I was over the 19 out 19-day record of Heather Anderson, then I still want to get a finish, you know, so I don't want to do anything or rush it so much that I miss my opportunity to get the whole experience. So it's kind of like goal one is to move efficiently and quickly, but to have a positive experience and get to the finish.
Now, you mentioned doing this 800-mile trail with the least amount of support possible. What does the least amount of support possible look like?
Well, it means for a trail that's as long as the Arizona Trail, it would be called self-supported. And for what through hikers do, and that's the style I'm doing it in, is we'll mail ourselves a few packages along the way. And there's actually quite a few spots you could mail it to, but there's 200-mile plus distances where you have to carry all of your supplies. And 200 miles broken down into the kind of speed I'm going in is somewhere around 3, possibly 4 days. So carrying enough food for that many days, as well as, you know, being out there for like a minimum of 2 weeks, you need to have safety gear. So rain jacket, rain pants, you know, very small sleeping bag, and I'm going to have a very small lightweight tent as well. So I'm kind of playing with like comfort versus weight and needing to be able to move quickly. So there's this really important balance where if you do get caught out there, you break your leg or something, you want to survive, and it's not worth all the light gear in the world to not have what you need to make it through. I have a family as well, so it's like there's priorities.